Indian movies involving jailbreaks have mostly disappointed, the most recent example of the same being Savi. Although Jigra wasn't an out-and-out escape adventure, it delved deep into the illegal route of getting one out of the state of being bound, and more so when a passing is around the corner. It is a tale of hope, resilience and gore. I'm not talking about the gore where limbs are slaughtered and heads are cut. I'm rather talking about the gore where hearts are shattered and minds are churned. Satya and Ankur, two lovable siblings, live with the Mehtani family post the passing of their mother and an untimely demise of their father. All seems well up until Ankur is caught up in a case involving illegal substance, that too in a country where it's an unforgivable offense, the punishment of the same being electrocution. Does Satya successfully save her brother, or does it result in tears on a foreign ground, is what forms the basic premise of Jigra. Do the mixed reviews by the masses coming out today really mean something? Does Alia impress one with her performance once again? Is this another example of an easy come story? Well, be sure to stick around till the end because we're going to talk about it all.
It's very like sort of blissful moment to see an actor really give. Like there's something very innocent and pure about it. Without making it sound too pseudo-intellectual or anything, it's just about giving, like when you give your heart.
Let's first get the underwhelming aspects out of the way. To begin with, as subtle as the story starts off, it gradually loses itself while it progresses into the latter half. The predominant reason for the same being the sudden shift of emotions from hopelessness to confidence that everything will go one's way. It isn't that the emotions mustn't come into play, it's just that the transition felt extremely abrupt. The tension was at an all-time high during the arrest, deceptive lawyer evaluation of the entire situation, and Satya's helplessness with all of the people favoring the uncompromising law. But once the planning came into play and the story turned two-dimensional, it slowly started to lose the engagement it had established with the audience. The placement of Phoolon Ka Taron Ka throughout the screenplay could have elevated so many sequences further, resulting in uproarious hooting, if used right. Not utilizing the potential of the track almost throughout the runtime was truly a disenchant. It all feels cohesive up until the real planning comes into the frame. There's a dialogue that's put out by Muthu, one of the convict's father, that goes, "Ye movie nahi hai, this is complicated," while planning the jailbreak. And they prove it right. So much so that one fails to resonate with the film logically post the same. Not a single gigantic roadblock comes their way. The only time Jigra momentarily redeems itself with tension is during the penultimate sequences. But barring all of the above and maybe some problems with the closure towards the end, it was quite the killer watch. Alia playing the ruthless and fierce sister who can go up against any individual, government authority or the entire world to safeguard her brother was a 100% badass. Oh, that reminds me, badass Ravi Kumar will be in theatres soon. Let me just check. Ankur, played by Vedang Raina, being submissive and feeling pressured in multiple instances, truly had the audience feel the despondency and a few times. He surely reassures that he's a capable performer and can be assigned roles that require high acting caliber. Innumerable sequences were put out there to showcase his goodness and his intent to be rightful, hinting at his upbringing, again pointing at Satya's character. The story, as most would call it, is generic and has been seen and done multiple times in the last 2 or 3 decades. But what genuinely makes Jigra stand out and leave a long-lasting impact is Alia's portrayal as Satya. There's a scene in the trailer where Satya feasts on the entire menu inside a chartered plane, which worked so well in that instance, almost making it feel symbolic, as though they're referring to her as a killer whale who has a big feast prior to the big hunt. She's somebody who doesn't necessarily express herself entirely through her facial expressions or even lexically, and that is exactly how the character is built, and that is what people are referring to and calling it bad acting. But the intent that she carries and the adornment that she has within is made palpable. Another key detail that I made sure to notice throughout is the characters around her tag along with her plan, act accordingly, give up or even lose hope. But Satya is the only one who's highly persistent, and not once throughout the progression does she concede defeat. She even comes up with the most bonkers sounding plans and puts some into play, but just doesn't give up. The title of the movie Jigra, that translates to courage, is most certainly real and faultless, taking into account the main protagonist and what the movie is trying to preach. There's another sequence where Satya is in need of a house to stay and she's got limitations on budget, and she finally finds one where a person's taken his own life. And when questioned whether or not she'd like to stay there, she immediately responds saying that she's used to living in such houses. This is just one example of many where there's extreme callback and melancholy from the past. The venture starts off with adolescent Satya and Ankur having a conversation with each other and immediately establishes the fact that she's always and will continue to be there for him. All of the times when there was a telephone or a video visitation within the prison premises, the conversation between the siblings truly had one emotional. In a venture like Savi, where we couldn't feel an iota of sorrow when Nakul was undergoing extreme suffering and Savi had to come to his rescue, the emotions and the development of the same felt extremely superficial. The above might feel like a trivial argument for the majority out there, but without world building and conviction, a filmmaker can never have masses adore his venture thoroughly. Portraying the siblings' relationship as one that's unbreakable, showcasing Satya's character to be the indefatigable being out there, and revealing the cruelty of the system as a whole definitely had one in for a ride. If Vasan Bala, the director, spent some more time developing the planning part of the story, and if the emotions that were surfacing sporadically stayed intact throughout, it would have been perfectly cohesive and heartfelt tale. Not that it wasn't entirely, but lacked a few elements that would have made this the quintessential example of this genre of movies in Indian cinema. But I must admit, ladies in action is something we definitely ought to see a lot more in the near future. Do leave your thoughts and takes on Jigra in the comments below, and whether or not it intrigued you. Let's talk.
Trailer for sailoring. Man, trailer for sailoring. Ain't got no cigarettes, but